Okay. All right. Well, hello, everybody. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you're tuning in from. You're very welcome. I have been looking forward to this discussion, and I am thrilled to introduce you to our wonderful panelists, four very accomplished and dedicated women. We are excited to share our experience and knowledge with you today. And I want to let you know just a couple of things before we start. First, you can have your camera on or off. It is entirely up to you. There's no requirement. If you have questions as we go along, feel free to type them in the chat, or you can always raise your hand with the reactions link there. But if you do that, I think you need to put your camera on. I will do my best to look for questions as I can. In a minute, I will be asking the panelists to briefly introduce themselves. And later on, I will be sharing a webpage link with you where you can go to learn more about all of us and find all of our contact information. If you have very specific questions for one of our panelists, everyone here offers a complimentary session, I think. So if it's a very detailed question, you might want to take advantage of that. Again, the details will be on the webpage that I'll share with you. I've also asked each of the panelists to share a free gift with you to help you in applying what we talk about today. So again, those details will be on the webpage that I'll share. Now, I have completed some questions related to our topic of mindfulness, and we will each be sharing our thoughts on those questions. So to get the most out of the session today, I really recommend that you just take a breath, relax, and be curious about how whatever we are discussing today applies to you. So let's get started. So Kelly, would you like to briefly tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thank you, Linda. First of all, thank you for organizing all of this and bringing us together to talk about this topic. There's been some legwork that's gone into it, so I think we all appreciate all that you've done to make this happen. Yeah. Let's see. Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Suttell, and I am the co-founder of the Yoga for Life community in Portland. And I work with people who are looking to reconnect with their heart, their soul, their essence. And I do that through a few different modalities, yoga included, but also through one-on-one family constellation therapy sessions, and also spiritual mentoring. And I've taught mindfulness in both the corporate environment and also in yoga environments. So happy to be here to talk about mindfulness today.
Excellent. Thank you, Kelly. Lorrie, how about you?
Yes, hi. I'm Lorrie Berg in San Francisco, and I call myself a heart-centered change coach and stress reduction specialist. And I've been seeing clients for over 35 years. And I work particularly with business professionals and business owners who are going through the anxiety and stress of a major life change, like a divorce or a job change or the loss of a loved one or moving or even preparing for surgery. And what I do is I help them navigate and integrate the change and in their own timing so that they can feel more peaceful, more confidence, more clarity, and when the time is right to move on to their next adventure. So I love doing that. I used to think of mindfulness as like a sitting practice, and I did start these mindfulness retreats that I would go to, 10-day retreats in 1981, and I did that for about 8 years. But as we'll see, mindfulness is so many more things than just sitting practice. So I use it all the time with clients and in my personal life, basically every day. So great to be here. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you, Lorrie. And Elisa, how about you?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Linda, as well for organizing, putting everything together, bringing us here. I am Elisa Calosso. I'm the founder of You Flourish Coaching. I have a background in human resources and work in corporate for over 15 years, and I experienced burnout. So as part of my journey, I look for many alternative and things to help me cope with what I was experiencing. And through that journey, I decided that I wanted to support other women to prevent burnout. So I do that through different modalities. Specifically, I love using EFT tapping, emotional freedom techniques, and energy psychology.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Elisa. And last but by no means least, Rachel, how about you?
Yes, hello. My name is Rachel Goodman. I'm a clinical functional nutritionist and the CEO of Brain Belly Wellness Virtual Nutrition Consulting. And I help women with complex digestive issues like SIBO, IBS, and IBD overcome those challenges and also address bathroom roller coaster issues. I use functional nutrition and functional medicine modalities to do that in order to get to the root causes and then address those in a holistic way so that they can enjoy their personal and professional lives again.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, finally, I'm Linda. For you, those who don't know me, my specialty is energy, and I help people have breakthroughs when nothing they've tried seems to be working, when they're just repeating the same things over and over and over, trying new strategies to resolve things, but nothing seems to be working. So I help them achieve their breakthroughs by learning how to master their energy and the energy around them. So just a reminder for anyone who didn't hear at the beginning, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. I'll keep an eye out for those. Or if you want to raise your hand, I will keep an eye open for those as well. So let us start with the first question. I have a little list of questions here. So let's start with Rachel then. What does mindfulness mean to you, Rachel?
Yeah, mindfulness to me is just being really aware of my existence and the existence of things around me. I find that it's a really sensory experience where I can tap into or witness thought, a sight, a smell, a taste in the moment.
Lovely. Thank you. How about you, Elisa?
Yeah, very similar to what Rachel said. It's tuning back into the present moment, connecting to myself, to my own breath, to feeling my feet on the ground and having that experience of coming back and pausing and just looking at how my body is feeling in the moment.
Beautiful. Thank you. Lorrie, how about you? What does it mean? What does mindfulness mean to you?
You guys are stealing my lines. Yeah, it's very similar. Awareness, moment-to-moment awareness, coming back to the mind and heart. And a lot of times in my work, I use sensation for myself and to help people come back. I call it come back home to yourself. And when you're more aware in the moment and the mind isn't racing forward to fear about the future or regrets about the past, there's so much more accessible to you. It's a kind of more open moment and it's just more alive. And
I like that. More alive. That's a great way of saying it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Kelly, what does mindfulness mean to you?
Mindfulness, I think there's sort of the definition of what mindfulness means. And if I think about some of the stalwarts who have really brought mindfulness into our culture, I know that they define mindfulness as paying attention on purpose in the present moment with a sense of openness and curiosity. And in practice, what that looks like is what Rachel and Elisa and Lorrie have mentioned. In practice, mindfulness really looks like watching our thoughts, watching our body, watching our emotions, and as they're playing out in real time without becoming them. So, for example, we're having a thought about something. we can be aware that we're having that thought. We aren't that thought per se. So that awareness that we're having the thought is what mindfulness is. That's what the practicality aspect is. And I think I love what Lorrie said in terms of kind of coming back home to ourselves. When we are aware of our thoughts, aware of our emotions, aware of our sensations in our body, like Rachel and Elisa mentioned, that opens up, for me, that opens up a level of self-awareness that starts to change our being on a certain level. It, just as Lorrie said, it really brings us back home to ourselves in a different way, that we disidentify with the thoughts and emotions and the sensations, and we become curious about them. So yeah, hopefully that answers on a definition basis, and then also a practicality of what that means to me.
Yeah, that's all. That's beautiful. You've all described it very, very beautifully. I see it as living consciously, because I think we do so much unconsciously. You could be driving somewhere. Let's say it's somewhere you go every day, and sometimes you've arrived at your destination and you don't remember the actual journey that you took to get there. You know, we're just so used to doing things so unconsciously. So it's that awareness. It's about, as you've all said, bringing yourself back to yourself. And I think becoming conscious, living a more conscious life is how I see it. So great answers. Thank you. So my next question is, how do you incorporate mindfulness into your personal life? We'll start there and then we'll move into how you use it with your clients. But so Lorrie, how do you incorporate mindfulness into your personal life?
Well, let's see, there's a lot of different ways. One of the things that I have been studying for the last 14 years is called Qigong, Chinese exercises to cultivate the heart and mind and body. And so I just was on a 9-day retreat. So I'm definitely doing it every day to come back to myself and come back to the heart. And just, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, even having the intention before I move, like just walking outside and feeling the intention, the mobilization of the muscles. Every moment we can just be aware of what's going on, eating, seeing the food, feeling it as it goes into the mouth, so that it's not just an automatic habit. Don't get me started. I have so many things to say about this. So thank you. And I just want to say, I'm really honored to be with the other women on the panel.
Sure you did.
It's just a wonderful group of people who have deep experience. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Kelly, how do you incorporate mindfulness into your personal life?
I'm gonna take a keyword that Lorrie mentioned, actually, was experience. So I am part of a yoga lineage called Universal Yoga, and Universal Yoga adheres to kind of the principle and the value that experience is what guides teaching. And I have been teaching mindfulness, but I wouldn't be able to teach it had I not had the experience of it, of what it really means. And so being a part of the Universal Yoga lineage and also personal values of integrity and authenticity have really kind of steered me in the direction of incorporating mindfulness all the time. In order to teach it, and we must have had experience of it. And I think everyone on the panel can probably share their own story as well about what work they're doing and how they've had to experience something in that work to lead them to doing their work.
Yes, that's so true.
Yeah. And so I guess I also, similar to Lorrie, in my personal life, I practice mindfulness in my interactions with people. I'm regularly watching my thoughts and emotions, what's coming up for me, and disidentifying with those thoughts and emotions, and just watching them just as unattached as you would watch kind of people walking down the street, something like that. So really understanding the essence of what is observing it all. So that's how it comes into my personal practice.
Excellent. Thank you. Elisa, how about you?
Well, let me tell you, it has never been easy for me to be mindful. It's becoming more and more, but in the past,
Oh, I think Elisa has frozen. Not good. Has she frozen for everyone else, or is it just
Yes.
me?
Yes.
Yes, she has. Elisa, okay, I'm going to come back to you. I hope your computer unfreezes, but let's go to Rachel then. Rachel, how do you incorporate mindfulness into your personal life?
Yeah, it comes up in a lot of ways. As Elisa was saying, it's something that I've really had to work on, and I'm still practicing and figuring it out, and I have to be very intentional about it. But a few ways that I incorporate mindfulness is I've started a morning journaling practice just to create a sense of awareness to start my day. Sometimes it's prompts, just, reflecting on the past. Sometimes it's things that help me, look towards the future and like why I'm always getting caught up in the future and that sort of thing, and just kind of bring me an awareness to um, I have anxiety, so that's something that I've really been trying to kind of work on. And also just grounding my morning in that way. And sometimes it just looks like, sitting in the chair with a cup of coffee watching the sunrise. It really doesn't have to be an active thing. I found it can be just a very passive, um, just observing the world around you. And then another way that I, of course, implement mindfulness is eating. As a nutritionist, it's a big part of my work, and I think it's something that a lot of people kind of forget about. But being very intentional about how we eat is really important in the process of digesting food and absorbing it and nourishing our own bodies. And so um, I'm very slow when I eat, which is not common with the people around me. I'm not afraid to be the last one at the table, that sort of thing. So.
That's really good. And I have to say, like Elisa, I wouldn't say mindfulness has come easily to me. My mind always wants to be somewhere else. So I think for me, it's very often a case of pulling my mind back to where I am. So I could be cleaning my teeth, for example, and my mind's going into what I've got to do, that the rest of the day, or what's happening tomorrow. And for me, it's a lot of catching myself. Okay, my mind has gone there. So right now I'm here, I'm cleaning my teeth, I'm doing this, and just bringing myself back to the present moment. Also, very often if I'm having a meal, I will find that I'm eating my meal, and then I have to remind myself, just slow down, be present, be here now. Or if I get into the car to go somewhere, well, I try to remind myself to take a breath before I even start to drive anywhere or do anything like that. So I think, and the reason I ask the question is because very often I think people, when you talk about mindfulness, they think it's just about sitting in meditation. That's mindfulness. Right. And yes, that absolutely is. And it's so much more, as we've all been discussing, as you're sharing what it means to you, and you're sharing how you incorporate it. I think we're seeing that it's so much more. Let's see, we got Elisa back. Elisa?
I'm back. Sorry.
Oh, there you are.
Lost internet connection.
That's all right. I'm so happy you're back. So, and I was sharing that mindfulness has not come easily to me either. So, so if you want to carry on from where you were.
Yeah, so it's been a constant reminder and becoming more aware of it. So, and one thing that has helped me is also that sensory experience and incorporating it with what I practice and I teach my clients, because sometimes it's hard to sit still and meditate and really like tune in. So sometimes it's for me using my body and moving my body and doing other things, not necessarily like I was just saying meditation, but being in that moment, present in whatever I'm doing, really having that sensory experience. And yeah, again, it's that constant reminder, because I think or for example, I come from being always on the go, multitasking, and it's sometimes hard to really, like, I was listening to this concept of multitasking and unitasking. So how can you really go into unitasking, like being really present in what you're doing and not like with your monkey mind, like thinking about everything that it's going on. So it's like, okay, am I really going to be in the present, or am I going to be in the past, the future? You know, it's like, it's a constant game, I think. And it's really working on bringing yourself back.
That's a good way to see it. It really is a constant game. It's like a constant game we play with our mind. Our mind wants to be somewhere else, and it's just recognizing it's gone somewhere else and bringing it back to the present moment.
Right.
So, yeah, and that applies to whatever we do. So the next question then is, how do you incorporate mindfulness into your work with your clients? We'll start with Rachel. I think I know, but I'd like to hear more.
Yeah, that it can honestly vary depending on the client in front of me, how we start to incorporate that. But one way is mindful eating, of course. You know, like I said earlier, a lot of people are just, they wake up in the morning and they're on the go, and it's just go, 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 like get out the door, get ready for work, get the kids to school. And they just don't stop and like take a breath, and they skip breakfast, or maybe they scarf something down standing up, or they're eating in the car, right? And that really impacts how well we are able to digest our food, let alone break it down and absorb it and like let it nourish ourselves. And so that's one of the first steps that I really approach with my clients who have symptoms of chronic indigestion and acid reflux and early fullness and that sort of thing. It's like you've got to stop and just be before you eat, because your body is not in a state of digestion, and so it's not going to be able to utilize what you're feeding it, but also it's just not going to do what you're asking it to do. And then another way that I work with clients on mindfulness is just journaling. I call it food, mood, poop journaling. We also include sleep and hydration in there as well sometimes, depending on how much they're willing to take on in the beginning. But it's really just about bringing awareness to daily habits. A lot of people say and think they're doing one thing, but they're really not. So like hydration, for example, they're like, yeah, I drink plenty of water. But then when we really take the time to document that and to reflect and that sort of thing, they realize, oh my gosh, I don't drink as much water as I thought I did. And so that helps guide us in where we start with the work that I do. And we make it very easy and very simple, because, diet and lifestyle change is not easy. So, yeah, that's just a couple ways.
No, excellent. I love that. And yes, that's something I'm constantly having to remind myself when I'm eating, because it seems like in our culture, we're very much, we're so busy that eating is just something you have to do to keep going, and then you're on to the next thing. And it's really important to remind yourself to slow down, because you're right. How can our body utilize what we're giving it if we don't slow down? Thank you, Rachel. Kelly, how about you? As a yoga teacher, it's all about mindfulness, but are there any other ways you incorporate mindfulness in your work with your clients?
Yeah, I think one of the characteristics of mindfulness is presence while listening, and this can also be called deep listening. And deep listening requires that we're not caught up in the story in our own head. We're not caught up in judgments or jumping ahead of what someone has to tell us. We're not caught up in advising them immediately when they stop telling their story. And so deep listening requires that we're paying attention on purpose in that present moment with a sense of expansiveness, really by definition of what mindfulness is. And I notice that when I am listening, deep listening to clients or deep listening to students when they have questions, not only am I hearing them with my ears, I'm also hearing them with the heart. And people know that feeling. So it's not a forced feeling or a forced deep listening. It's a curious, expansive deep listening. And people recognize the difference when you listen to them in that way. And by listening to people in that way, they're able to share things that they may not have been able to share with others before. And so that is such a huge value, because that is what I enjoy so much about my work, is when we can get to the root of what is really holding someone back. And without mindful listening, without deep listening, often there's not a space or a spaciousness for them to go there. So yeah, so deep listening, mindful listening is a key component of working with clients.
I'm so glad you said that, because it's deep listening it really is so important, because we're often, when we're listening, our minds are going more to how we're going to respond or what we're going to do with the information, and we're not fully 100% present with what the person is saying. So I love that. It's not just a listening with your ears, it's a listening with your body. You're actually feeling it. Thank you very much. Elisa, how about you?
Yes, very interesting what Kelly was sharing, going to the root of that. And I love doing the same. In the work that I do, it's mostly understanding our emotions, getting in touch with our emotions, giving ourselves permission to feel them. Sometimes we're not really in touch with them. We may feel some kind of pain in the body and we don't understand where this is coming from. So the first thing that I like to teach my clients to have that awareness of, first of all, identify that emotion, especially if they haven't been in touch with that. Identify, and there is a whole wheel of emotions that go further than just feeling happy, sad, frustrated. So just identifying that, being aware of that. That's one of the things that I like to incorporate in the work that I do. And yes, again, giving ourselves permission to feel and process those emotions that may be holding us back and may be showing in our body in some way. So also getting in touch with the body and allowing that emotion to be there, especially if it has been rejected or just pushed back. So I think that's a way of being also mindful of our feelings and being aware that that's also very important.
That's so true. And yeah, there are so many emotions we don't want to feel, and so it's so easy to ignore them, push them down, but they don't go anywhere, do they? They have to be faced. Yes, that's so important. Thank you, Elisa. And Lorrie, how about you? How do you incorporate mindfulness into your work with your clients?
Well, a couple of ways come to mind. I've started for a while now, when we start a session, that we do some type of going through the body, through sensation, or there's a heart prayer meditation that we do, because I find that we're coming from different places, and to ground and get in the moment and also have that connection together already starts the session where we can go deeper from the beginning. Another thing that I have a program for people who have tinnitus, ringing in the ears, that I call it softening your relationship with tinnitus. This is especially when it's bothersome. And mindfulness is really central in that, because, you know, And this can be anything, pain or anything that's distracting you, but it's almost like for some of them, it's like they're in a tunnel with these incessant sounds. And what happens with mindfulness, and they have homework to do it, to start, doing mindfulness every day, is it just opens up their world. So instead of this, it's sort of like, oh, bird, oh, wind on my cheek. Back to the breathing, ear sound. It takes the charge out of it. And I've had some very good results with people, because that's a tough one that a lot of people kind of don't know what to do with. And the other thing is, in my work, a lot of times, everything that everyone's saying, I love what they're saying. Emotion is part of what I'm working with, because I'm working with people going through major life changes or challenging things that can be shocking to their system. So the first thing is to actually even say something has happened that I didn't think could possibly happen, to just ground them, because they're so disoriented, to come back here and acknowledge that, just that alone. And then sometimes when I'm working with people and there's an emotion, I'll have them go into, where do you feel that in the body? And we'll just sit with sensations. And it's quite amazing. I think all of us have experienced this, where just being with the sensations, giving space to it, like a parent lovingly giving room to a child, a lot can shift without having to sort of do anything. It's more of a receptive mode. So yeah, it's very, very helpful in my practice.
I love what you said there about how your whole world starts to open up and you start to experience different things that you were not aware of before. That's such a beautiful benefit of mindfulness. I think for me, one of the first things that I usually do with clients is it's about training yourself to notice. In fact, I have a journal I give to people, and I call it a noticing notebook instead of a journal. And really, I sort of encourage them to start noticing what's going on. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? This person just said this to me and now I feel this way, or I was feeling great and now I'm not, and what just happened? And just starting to notice the things that we tend to just either ignore or just not be aware of. And I think, once you start to, people are often very surprised at what they start to notice when they do that with intention. Because I always say when people have an issue, what they think is their problem is never really the problem. And so by doing this, by starting to notice, they start to become aware of so much more. I want to jump now to actually sharing maybe a personal story or an observation, maybe a client story, something where mindfulness significantly impacted someone's life or your own life, because I think it's helpful to share actual examples of where there's been a shift. So let me start with you, Lorrie. Would you like to answer that one?
Yeah. Well, let me continue with the softening your relationship with tinnitus, because I had an amazing experience. It so touched me, which is one of my clients said that she would hear the sounds in the morning and the evening. And she told me after doing the program, which was a lot about mindfulness, she no longer heard the sounds in the evening, which is amazing with tinnitus, and I would never promise that. But I think, something happens in our system when we are mindful, like physiologically, that changes. So that's the one that really comes to mind. That was kind of mind-blowing. So
that is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
That's a real change to think that something that was so prominent was not there anymore.
And it's interesting, because is it no longer there? Or I'm just not paying attention to it. And in a way, does it really matter?
Doesn't matter, yeah.
Because I'm feeling so much better when I don't have those sounds,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Rachel, could I go to you? Do you have an example, personal or client example?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, anxiety is something that I've had challenges with for a long, long time. And so as an adult, I have had to, you know, take a lot of steps to kind of break away from that state. And so one of the things that I have found very helpful in doing that, because often when you are anxious, you're focusing on the future and all the things that may or may not happen, you know, catastrophizing, or you're ruminating on the past and getting caught up in the things that happened and just worrying all the time. And so a practice that I have found incredibly helpful in kind of grounding myself when I'm noticing I'm in an anxious state is setting random reminders in my phone, just a gentle like alarm. And it's just to help me stop in my workday, whatever I'm doing, and just pause and ask myself, where am I? Like, where are my thoughts? What am I worrying about? What isn't getting done? Am I worrying about something that happened a long time ago? And I'm just kind of recentering where I'm at. And then it helps me just refocus on the work that I am supposed to be working on and getting done. And I have just found this incredible sense of like freedom in that practice. It's just such a huge, like a burden has been lifted, because I just feel like I can approach my work with a lot less stress and, you know, just have more energy, just more mental energy to work and just be, and, you know, outside of work even, and just in my day-to-day, in my relationships, I'm just able to have more energy to connect with others and fulfill my purpose.
But that's beautiful. And I think it's a great reminder of how when we feel better, when we feel more balanced and grounded, and can achieve that through the incorporation of mindfulness, how we show up for other people in our relationships with our clients, wherever it is, we are showing up as a better version of ourselves. And I think that's a great example of that. Thank you, Rachel. Kelly, how about you?
Yeah, I'll share a personal story with this. So what really brought me to mindfulness and yoga and the kind of healing journey that I've been on is that I have experienced really debilitating back and neck pain when I was young. And it's a very long story, but it has been such a significant teacher and a teaching opportunity for me. But occasionally my back and neck will still flare up. And recently, within the past couple of months, I had a flare up during a yoga class. And I'm familiar with the same posture, the same sort of physical state that I have, and then the onset of the symptoms. And I notice that when this happens, my mind can go in two different places. It can go to catastrophizing as, oh, here's this pain again, and here's what the recovery period looks like, and the emotional output of that, of frustration and anger and sadness. And all of that spins up in my body, which I think Lorrie mentioned, the physiology of that is very stressful in that moment. And I watched myself in this particular yoga class, I watched my emotions and my thoughts spin up in this way. And I decided, you know what, I'm just going to let this go for right now. And I'm just going to relax and rest. And yes, this may be difficult and this may be painful, but I can't do anything about it in this class at this moment. And just by softening that, I was able to, your physiology does respond to that. So the stress in your body does not tighten as much. It doesn't tighten your muscles as much as your mind, really. And so I noticed after class, yes, I walked away from that class and a couple days worth of pain, but it was so much less pain than had I kind of clamped down and tightened up and held on to the thoughts and emotions of what was happening. So there's very much a physiological aspect for me that has been my experience of, if I can let go a little bit of the thoughts and emotions that are spinning up, then my body also lets go. And when my body lets go, then I heal a lot more quickly or a lot faster. So I've been able to observe that cycle and been inspired by that cycle that we can have influence over, that sometimes I think that we may not have that influence.
I think you're right. I think we have a lot more influence than we think we do. And that is just such a perfect example of that. Thank you for sharing that. It's very powerful. Elisa, how about you?
Yes, thank you for that story, Kelly. It reminds me of some of my clients that I've worked with when it comes to emotions and identifying the emotions that they are experiencing, and how sometimes, for example, I had this client, she was experiencing hand pain in her hands, and it was very strange to her because she actually was a yoga instructor, but she told me, I didn't do anything to cause this, or it's so strange that I'm experiencing this. So we started working on the emotions around that pain, everything that was giving her some kind of discomfort. And it's interesting how the pain may manifest, and we may think that it's because of an injury or something that we did, and it could be the case, but the stress that goes around, it's also something that we have control over, and it's also a reaction and our thoughts. So we started working on that and just identifying what was on the first layer was already giving her results. It was making her feel so much better. But as we went into more sessions together, we were able to identify that the pain was more about holding on to something that she didn't want to let go of, and something that was happening in a relationship that she was having some issues with. So it's amazing how when we bring that awareness, that presence, and we are willing to explore more, to be that kind of like detective mind, but with curiosity, we're able to go deeper and start peeling the layers of that onion. So it is fascinating, and it's something that I could talk for a lot of time. So
Yes, I think we could happily have a conversation all day about this. Thank you for sharing that. One of the things I've learned, I used to, when something happened that was upsetting, or somebody did something that hurt me or something like that, I would feel it physically very much in my body, and it would be, oh gosh, it was like an intense feeling of nausea. And there would be, just because as I grew up really believing I wasn't good enough. That was the lesson I grew up with. And anything that went wrong in our house was always my fault. So there was always a lot of guilt and shame, and from time to time when something happens, that will show up. And of course, when you feel that way, you don't want to feel that way. You just want it to go. You'd rather feel anything but this. And so with mindfulness, I think one of the things I've learned is to really learn how to be with that, with whatever I'm feeling. And as I've done this more and more, because it's like, once you can be with it, and you can look at it and say, okay, this is happening for a reason. What is it I need to learn from this? When you do that, then you are able to learn whatever it is that's going on for you. And then it just kind of gradually dissipates. And that was such a powerful learning for me, because in the past I would have held on to something like that and wouldn't have known what to do with it. It could have lasted days, weeks, months, and just that willingness to be with it and to explore what it's telling me about myself. What do I need to learn from it? And not making it wrong, or not making me wrong, has just been incredibly powerful. So much so that now, if I do feel something like that, I start to think, okay, I can be grateful for this. I get to be grateful for this because on the other side of this is something really good. I'm ready to release something that I've been holding on to for a long time. And it's just a completely different way of looking at pain or discomfort or trauma, and doing it, realizing, I see it more as when you embrace it in that way, it's like a stepping stone to something, you know, to your growth, I suppose you could say. It's not there to harm you or hurt you. It's there to show you something. And when you're willing to look at that, it's just incredibly powerful. And it doesn't stay around anymore. It goes. Once you get what you need to get from the experience, then it will dissipate. And I've just found that to be incredibly powerful. And it does take time to be able to get to that point where, you're feeling something so horrendous, and to be able to say, oh, I get to be grateful for this. I wonder what it is that I can learn from this. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for those stories. And I was wondering, how can someone measure or assess their progress in developing mindfulness and presence over time? How do you know that you are being more mindful, and that you're applying it more in your life? So Kelly, let's start with you.
I think it starts with noticing the things that ...
Right.
I think the biggest aspect of starting or turning on a mindfulness practice is noticing. So noticing where your awareness is going. Perhaps it helps to journal about it or to write them down. Notice the things that bother you in your thoughts or emotions regularly. And that can be on a personal level, or it could be on a global level. And then as you notice those things, as you've written them down, then notice how it feels having written them down, and notice how it feels when those things come into your awareness again. And there's a returning back to noticing, a returning back to what is coming up for you. And I think over time, someone would be able to assess that as they've acknowledged things that have been bothering them, the act of acknowledgement itself can help to provide some relief. And so this combination of noticing, acknowledging, and then noticing again how you're feeling as a result of that practice, I think there may be an internal result that they may experience to know that they're moving forward in their mindfulness practice. I hope that doesn't feel too kind of heady in saying that, but I think to kind of sum it up, notice the things that are taking away from your joy, and notice when you're in a moment of that thing taking away your joy, and then over time, as a result of acknowledging that, noticing, see how you feel.
Yeah, no, I think that's really well put. And I think once you start to notice, you become better at noticing, and you notice things sooner rather than after the event necessarily. So yeah, I think that's a really good way of becoming aware of that. The fact that you are incorporating mindfulness is how well you are noticing, or how often you are noticing what's going on. Yeah, beautifully put. Thank you. Elisa, how about you?
I think for me has been noticing also the way I react compared to what has happened in the past. That's how I've been able to see to measure my progress And of course, not always is going to be a success story. There is an opportunity to learn and to realign things. But yeah, to give myself some compassion along the way, that also has helped me. And to notice like, oh, okay, this is not as triggering as before. I'm proud of myself for responding this way, or I noticed something different that may have triggered me that maybe in the past I wasn't able to see. So yeah, I think it's a constant adjustment and realignment of things. And it's a work in progress. I think it never stops. So just giving ourselves
Yeah.
credit for as
Yes.
little as something, I think that's important. Showing
Yes.
that compassion and being gentle.
Absolutely. That's very well said. Thank you. Rachel, how about you?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about this through the lens of like mindful eating, like kind of what you're going to notice or experience, and how you're going to feel progress in doing aspects of mindful eating. You're going to breathe deeper during your meals. You're going to chew a lot slower. You're going to savor your food more. It's going to taste better. Um, People who tend to have indigestion symptoms, acid reflux, bloating, that sort of thing, they're going to notice a reduction of those symptoms over time. Maybe less reliance on things like Tums or, antacids or something like that. Um, and then, they're going to just enjoy their meals overall. And probably other people are going to start noticing too. So you're going to be at the table a lot longer. You're going to be just more present and just slowing down with your interaction with food. And so I think that's just some really, I don't know, apparent ways to notice how you're progressing with mindful eating.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. And Lorrie, how about you?
Yes, people have said a lot of good things that I would also experience. I like to call it like more space around things, so that a lot of times instead of automatic behavior, that we have a moment to feel, oh, I don't have to go there. I don't have to eat that, or I don't have to go into the mind racing. And so there's a kind of, I don't know about you, but often there's a voice that is not very kind, that's, you know, commenting on everything. And I found for myself and with clients that as they're practicing more mindfulness, sometimes, and in their heart more, sometimes that voice can soften, which really makes the difference in feeling more peaceful and even more self-acceptance and confidence. So I guess I'd say that.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. And regarding that voice, I think we've got all these different aspects of ourselves, haven't we? There's the critical me, there's the angry me, there's the spoiled child me, whatever it is that we don't want to acknowledge. But I think when you do acknowledge them and you almost make friends with that part of yourself, it does soften, and it does integrate more, I think, into the wholeness of who you are. So yeah, that's very well said. Thank you, Lorrie. Well, I'm very aware that we've only got a few minutes left, so I would like to ask you all about your free gift that you're offering for viewers, and also give people the opportunity to ask any questions at the end if they have any. So Lorrie, I'll start with you. Would you like to tell us about your free gift?
Sure. Yeah, it's a 5-minute mindfulness meditation. And I kind of like to say, because sometimes people have all these ideas about, they got to be sitting for hours, or, all this perfectionist stuff. It's like, I just say, I call it the you can do 5 minutes, can't you? Mindfulness meditation. And a lot of times, even 1 minute, just, I think Elisa said, just a little bit in the right direction can make a big difference. So, yeah, so that there's a recording, and we're using the breath as an anchor, since if we're alive, we're breathing. So keep coming back and coming back to the mind and heart, and just, again, softening of how we're talking with ourselves. So it's
That's
very
beautiful.
doable. Yeah.
Yeah. anybody can do a 5-minute meditation. So I
Usually,
recommend
yeah.
that. Thank you. Yes. And Elisa, what is your free gift?
It's also 5 minutes. It's a 5-minute to melt
Oh.
your stress. And it is with EFT tapping. So I'll be teaching you the basic recipe. So 9 acupressure points where you can tap and you can let that stress melt down. You also get the guide to follow along. And we do it breathing. Just that's the first step, breathing and tapping. And these are acupressure points based on acupuncture. And yeah, they're proven to lower cortisol levels and to help with the stress response.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And Kelly, would you tell us about your free gift, please?
I love these. This feels like a wellness kit for attendees to take away.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see, we have a guide, a yoga guide for deep sleep. So some tips on how to really get into deeper sleep. And there's aspects of positioning your bed in the right way in your room. There's aspects of, are you getting the right amount of trace minerals in your diet? There's aspects of what type of lighting are you using before you're going to bed. All of these things can impact your ability to sleep well. And by sleeping well, we nourish our body to have a little less stress. So overall, to lower cortisol and just feel better. Sleep is incredibly healing. So yeah, so Yogi's Guide to Deep Sleep.
Oh, sounds wonderful. Sounds wonderful. And Rachel, what's your free gift?
Yeah, my free gift is Mindful Eating on the Go. It's a guide that you can download, and it offers some basic mindful eating practices if it's something new that you're interested in trying. But it also offers simple strategies that you can use to bring mindful eating into the social experience. There's a lot of pressure around food and being social, and so a lot of times, we're trying to be very intentional about nourishing our bodies and kind of going against the grain in terms of how we eat and that sort of thing. And that can be a really hard thing to do. So this guide is really intended to help you navigate those social situations where maybe you're dining out with people who don't necessarily align with how you like to eat. So there's just some strategies on how to do that in a way that works for you and doesn't maybe, make you feel like you can't enjoy being social in a food setting with other people. There's also ways to leverage menus at restaurants that I think we have more control over the menu than we realize. And so it kind of gives you some tips and tools on how to make eating in almost any social setting work for you in terms of your dietary needs and preferences. And then there's 6 bonus recipes that I've included as well that they work very well in family potluck style settings so that you can bring whole food to these engagements that you can eat, but maybe other people would be open to trying as well because they're really popular sort of dishes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That sounds really helpful. Thank you. And then I have a free gift, which is it's a downloadable short ebook. It's about creating your own personal mindfulness action plan. So it's about taking everything you've learned today. There are some other suggestions in there as well. And then just making notes of the ones that are most appealing to you, seeing how you get on with them, and really sort of helping yourself to just come up with your own personal plan, because it looks different for everybody. I think it's a recognition that we're all unique, and what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another. So it's about how to incorporate mindfulness in a way that works best for you. So my goodness, look at that. We've got 1 minute to go. Last minute. Does anybody who is on with us live have any questions they would like to ask? If you do, if you want to open up your camera and unmute.
Rachel, I have
Anita.
a super quick question about fasting and your take on how fasting can assist with mindful eating or not.
Sure. Yeah. Just to, keep it quick, fasting is a very hot topic right now. And I think that being very intentional about who you are as an individual and how you're going to fast is very important. Women tend to handle fasting differently than men do. And so you have to, if you're going to do it, I would say be very mindful about your own body. And it's kind of a learning process, starting small, that sort of thing. You can do an overnight fast as you're sleeping. A lot of people think they have to do it during the daytime. But sometimes it can just be as simple as, eating dinner at a decent time, two hours before bed or so, and then the next time you eat in the morning, that's often pretty sustainable for people. And yeah, it's kind of a trial and error process, but I think going too hard too soon can be very disruptive to your hormones and things like that. So want to be really intentional about how you're going to do it.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm super nervous with having diabetes and knowing that when I'm hungry, I'm hangry. So
Yeah.
nervous about even trying it. But anyways, thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe, Anita, it might be an idea for you to schedule a time to talk with Rachel specifically so that because there's a lot more to it, and I think it will be really helpful for her to know some of the specifics about what's going on for you, because that's the kind of thing that it sounds great, and then you do it if you've got diabetes going on. There's a whole other component to it. So I'd recommend you get together with Rachel and have a conversation. Maria says that was amazing. Thank you so much. You are so welcome, Maria. And Jing, yes, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Does anybody else have any questions before we wrap it up? That's what I was going to do. I was going to share with you where you can go and access everybody's information and download the free gifts. Very simple. It is lindabins.com/panel. And just go there, and I will be putting up the recording in case you want to listen to it or watch it again. And you'll find a little bio for everybody from the panel, as long as together with all of everybody's contact information. So feel free to reach out to anybody, and don't forget to download all the free gifts. As Kelly said, it's like a wellness kit. I think it's going to be so beneficial. So thank you to all my wonderful panelists. Thank you for sharing your time, your energy, your wisdom, your expertise. And I really appreciate you all being here. And thank you to everyone who joined us live, and to all the people who are going to be watching the recording. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
and
everyone.
Any questions, you'll have our contact information. Okay. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.